using the layouts a little bit different, but the majority of them, if in the upper right-hand corner, you can see a small button with 3 dots. Right next to that, you can select speaker view, and that will bring the speaker to the front or at least highlight the speaker as they're talking. Additionally, I want to let everybody know that the meeting is being recorded. The recorded meeting will be on the Chamber's website, or there'll be a link on the Chamber's website that if there's something that you actually missed, you can go back and rewatch the video. Joanne Beatty, who is the Chamber CEO, will be controlling the attendees. So if you happen to accidentally unmute yourself and you're not a candidate, Joanne's going to remute you. If you do it a second time, we're going to kick you off. I'm just joking. Okay, it's a little hard to do jokes when you're doing it through Zoom. You just don't hear the laughter, so it's a little tough. Also, if there's any additional questions,
I'm laughing.
You're laughing. Thank you. Whoever that was, thank you. All right. Oh, see, now I lost my spot. No, okay. Anyway, so how we developed the questions, we queried our Chamber members and the public, and we took a series of questions. Now, obviously, we were not going to be able to answer all of the questions because we'd be here for a lot longer. So what we're going to do is, if there's any additional questions for the council candidates, on the Chamber's website, we will list each of the candidates and link to their website. That way you can reach out directly to them so that they can answer your questions. Again, we'll also have a link to the video on the Chamber's website. The Chamber's website is www.manteca.org. That's www.manteca.org. And again, that's where you'll be able to find the link and then the links to the council candidates. So without further delay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with the introductions. So first, we're going to start with the council candidates for Manteca. Real quick, before I get into that, let me go ahead and do the first introduction so that everybody knows who they are. So we'll start with the candidates for Manteca City Council. That's Fred Cunha. You give a little wave, Fred. We have Gary Singh. We have Charlie Halford. And we have David Martin Sr. And for the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors, District 5, we have 2 candidates, Rhodesia Ransom and Robert Rickman. All right, great. Okay, so let's get started. We'll get started with the introductions. So first, we're going to start with Fred Cunha, and we'll go ahead and start with your introduction. Fred, take it over. Let's get you unmuted first. Hold on, Fred. Joanne, you want to unmute him?
There we go.
There
Can you hear me now?
Okay, Fred. We can hear you now.
All right, very good. All right, well, my name's Fred Cunha, and I'm running for Manteca City Council. Let everybody know a little bit about myself. I'm a California native, and I currently live, of course, in Manteca. I have long-term family roots in the Central Valley. My wife's an elementary school teacher here in the Manteca Unified School District. I have 3 sons and 4 grandchildren. When I was a child, I used to come out here to the San Joaquin Valley and help my grandfather on his farm, and actually learned to drive a tractor when I was 9 years old. And that was a lot of fun. So I have a lot of fond memories of the valley here. I'm a registered nurse. I currently work in home health. I'm on the front lines of healthcare here in the Central Valley. I've worked for local hospitals here as an emergency room RN. And I also currently maintain my registered nurse and public health nurse credentials. For nearly 30 years, I worked in the information systems industry as a certified project manager. In 2008, in the economic downturn, I retired and retired my project management credential and returned to school to pursue a career as a registered nurse. I graduated from Sierra College with an Associates of Science in Biological Sciences, and then I also graduated from Sacramento State University with a BSN. I also hold a master's certificate in project management from the George Washington University. I support, the primary reason that I'm running is I support law enforcement and maintaining law and order through a fully funded police department. Public safety is #1 for me. I'm committed to supporting the safety of the residents of Manteca. This is really my top priority. I believe in supporting, attracting, and promoting the growth of local businesses and to provide adequate infrastructure to support the growth of our diverse community. I'm sorry, that's my alarm telling me I was out of time, but I think I have like 10 more seconds. Key things for me: homelessness, the downtown district, COVID-19, no new taxes, going beyond putting up new housing, and attracting good paying jobs, manufacturing jobs to Manteca. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Fred. Very much appreciated. Okay, next up, Gary Singh.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Councilman Gary Singh. Thank you for this opportunity. So a lot of you may have known, but if you don't know about me, I'm a small business owner in the community. I grew up in this community. I was a Sierra High School graduate. Some of you guys don't hold that against me. And then also a UOP graduate. Grew up in this community. 4 years ago, I promised the Manteca community a responsive and transparent candidate, a person that was also going to bring business perspective to government, breaking barriers and taking your voice to City Hall. I believe I've done that. I have been very responsible to you all with all of my media platforms. Also helping launch the city's Facebook page. I've worked with 2 different council makeups showing cohesion. In 4 years, we have been able to bring projects like 511 Tactical, Great Wolf, which will bring so many things to our city for so many years. We have added 12 police officer positions, brought Fire Station 5 to the south side of 120, and also added firefighters to our force. We have completed road projects such as Lathrop Road, Atherton Gap, and soon to be completed the Diverging Diamond with that pedestrian overcrossing from the south side. So I'm thankful for you guys, and thank you for this opportunity, and hopefully I will continue being your voice at City Hall.
All right, thank you, Gary. Okay, next up for their introduction, Charlie Halford.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking the time and having the interest to participate in this forum to hear from all the candidates. I was born and raised in Manteca and Lathrop. Attended East Union High School, so Gary, I won't hold Sierra against you too much. Went to Sac State, graduated from there with a degree in criminal justice, and then worked as a firefighter at Lathrop Manteca Fire Department for about 2 years. A year of it was full-time, and a year of it was as a volunteer. Also worked as an EMT for Manteca Ambulance. Then I started at Manteca Police Department and was there for 32 fun-filled years. And then 11 years I was chief, starting in 1997, and retired in 2008. I had a 3-day weekend for retirement, and then started as the executive director, CEO at the Boys and Girls Club of Manteca and Lathrop, and was there for 4 years, and then retired again, if you could call it retirement. I still volunteer a lot, both at the Boys and Girls Club and a lot of other nonprofits in Manteca. Public safety is a big priority for me. Always has been. I think both my career and my commitment shows in that regard. That being said, public safety is just not law enforcement and fire. It's also parks and recreation, streets, and many other components. When I was at the police department, we started youth activities in conjunction with the Boys and Girls Club that have evolved into what they are now. Always been a big supporter of youth activities. I was on the board of the Boys and Girls Club for a number of years and was board president for a year. Also been involved in a lot of nonprofits throughout the time. Like all the other candidates, we all want to attract and retain good paying jobs here. We want to maintain the streets. We want downtown to flourish. We want the homeless situation to go away, but we've got to find reasonable and cost-effective ways to do that, and legal ways to do that, so we don't end up in federal court and state court for doing things we shouldn't be doing. I look forward to serving as your city councilman in the future, and thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Charlie. And last, certainly not least, David Martin, Sr.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I certainly appreciate this honor to be a part of this forum and run against all these distinguished candidates, I must say. I was born and raised in Orlando, Florida, actually, and I served in the U.S. Army, Schofield Barracks, 121st Infantry Division in Hawaii. After Hawaii, I relocated to the Bay Area. I've been in Manteca the past 15, 17 years. I'm very tied to this community and all sorts of roles in terms of youth development and coaching and things of that nature.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
There we go. We got her muted. Sorry about that.
I think they're applauding my speech so far. I appreciate that. No. But no, really, where was I? And so I've been in education management more recently. I've been a part of developing youth and helping them to be better people and whatnot. My primary focus in running in this campaign is I want to be the voice of reason in this very polarizing society we're in right now. And I believe, unfortunately, some of the things in the political discourse right now are, exploiting positive social movement. I'm of the mindset that no police officer should ever feel less than because you have a few people protesting for equal justice. I want to make that very clear. I believe that every looter, rioter should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Public safety is also on my platform, and I do believe it's very important. But I also believe that fiscal accountability at City Hall is important as well. The homeless crisis is getting worse. That has to be addressed. Obviously, the COVID-19 issue has not gone away, and that also needs to be addressed. So I've got a lot of things I want to say. I've talked to a lot of people on the right and the left, and everyone I talk to, for the most part, respects my position and where I'm coming from. And I thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you, David. Okay. So real quick housekeeping note, if you are a attendee, if you can please make sure that you stay muted and your video is disabled. We want the candidates to be front and center, not the attendees. We want to hear from our candidates. So we're going to move forward to the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors, race for District 5. We'll start with Rhodesia Ransom. Rhodesia?
All right. Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. And first of all, I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their day to actually participate in this forum. I'm Rhodesia Ransom. I am a nonprofit executive director in San Joaquin County for an organization that provides mentoring and mental health, very much needed services in San Joaquin County. I am on the Tracy City Council, where I was elected in 2016. Prior to that, I served on the Tracy Planning Commission for 7 years and got a great understanding of what it means to really participate in building a community. I've heard a lot of people brag about, being born and raised here. I was not born and raised here. I chose to live here in San Joaquin County. My family moved here. I was born and raised in San Francisco. And just honestly, I really love the job of governance and service. I look at this position on the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors as a position of service. It's where many of our very important services are housed. And as we see in the pandemic, it's really important that we have leadership there that understands what's at stake and understands how the decisions we make on one end get to the other. Things that have always been of concern to me, and I think a job of governance, is public safety. My record will reflect that I've always supported public safety in our community. It's important that we make sure that we have the tools and resources to actually be able to make sure that when people call 911, they get what they need. I think it's also important that we have services to be able to address some of the underlying issues of some of the criminogenic needs we see in our community, whether that be homelessness, being substance abuse and mental health access here in our county. South County definitely is struggling, and South County definitely includes Manteca. We need to build sustainable jobs and a sustainable workforce, and it's important to understand that what goes into that includes education. When we are looking to attract jobs, we often hear that we need more educators, more educated workforce, and also we need to work on our infrastructure in our community and our transportation and traffic. And all of those things go hand in hand in really building a sustainable community and the ability to make sure that we have the quality of life that taxpayers are paying for here in our county. I can't see Mr. Obligacion, so just say something out loud if I'm going over time. But basically, that's what I am running to make sure that the quality of the governance that we provide is here represented, not just for Tracy in District 5 or the biggest seat, but the entire county, and South County definitely needs proper representation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Rhodesia. Sorry that you can't see him. I'll try and move around a little more. Okay, next from the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors District 5 race, Robert Rickman. Robert, unmute yourself.
Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Right. Again, thank you, Nick, and thank you, Joanne, for inviting me, and thank you to the Manteca Chamber of Commerce and all the viewers that are watching today. My roots run deep here in San Joaquin County. I'm a third generation San Joaquin County resident. I'm born and raised in Tracy, went to Tracy High, graduated from Delta College, Sac State, and earned my law degree from Humphreys College in Stockton. I'm an active state police sergeant and currently in the Tracy area, and have worked in every city here in San Joaquin County. Even one of my beats was the 99-120 interchange, so I know how bad that interchange is and how dangerous it is. You know, I'm running because I love this community. I love San Joaquin County. I can't think of a better place to live and raise a family. I have 2 daughters I want to see grow up here, raise their family here, and grow old here, just like you do with your family. I've served on the city council since 2010 and mayor since 2016. As mayor, I proposed and council approved a 5-point plan that I came up with that made Tracy one of the most safest and prosperous cities in San Joaquin County. You know, we've led in business creation, added over 5,000 jobs, and remain one of the safest cities in the region. Our property tax and sales tax was higher than it's ever been, and our employment rate declined every year. And I also led the fight against the county over local control over our fire department and EMS services. However, even with all its success, there is more work done. The homeless crisis is out of control, commute times are increasing, cost of living continues to increase, crime rates in part of our county is increasing. The next supervisor needs to have the experience, education, track records of accomplishments, be a fighter, and listen to the interests of the community to combat these problems. And I have all these qualities, and they are unmatched by any other candidate. I've always been true to my word. And like many elected officials, when I tell you I'm going to do something, I do it. And I promise you a choice, not an echo. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Robert. Okay, so that took care of our introductions. I would like to get into our questions, how we will manage the questions. I will ask the question of the Manteca candidates first, and then we'll go on to the Board of Supervisors. So, for the first question for the Manteca City Council candidates, and the order that we will answer these questions is Fred Cunha, you will go first, Gary Singh, you will go second, Charlie Halford, you will go third, and David Martin Sr., you will go fourth. So the first question that we pose to you is, are you satisfied with the current progress on how the homeless issues are being addressed? If not, what solutions do you have to offer? If so, why? Charlie? Excuse me, Fred?
Here we go. Let me unmute myself. Can you hear me? And I have 1.5 minutes, right?
Yes, 1.5 minutes, yes.
Right. Okay, I have to express severe dissatisfaction about the homeless problem that we have today. You know, working in the emergency rooms here as a registered nurse, I know firsthand and experience firsthand the homeless crisis in our emergency rooms. Mental health issues, drug issues, alcohol abuse issues are at the core of many of the homeless and the vagrants that are in our area. For those that are newly homeless from perhaps economic conditions, I think those people we can help. We have programs to help them, and they want to get on their feet. The problem that we have today is we have folks that basically because of mental health or drug issues may not particularly qualify for certain programs or participate in certain programs. And so what we need to do in Manteca is I really believe we need to put a program manager in place that is focused exclusively on the homeless. This position would be self-funded. Their focus would be on getting funding for our homeless issue and to turn around our homeless population, provide them an opportunity to turn their life around. I believe as a Christian that everybody is a child of God and they should have an opportunity to be able to improve their lives. So we should be able to offer them that opportunity and help them improve their lives. And for those that choose not to do that, we need to hasten their exit from the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Next, we'll have Gary Singh. Would you like me to repeat the question or?
Sure.
Okay. Are you satisfied with the current progress on how the homeless issues are being addressed? If not, what solutions do you have to offer? If so, why?
All right, thank you. So, homelessness is just a multifaceted issue. It's not just something that's one size fits all. I'm pretty much on the front lines when it comes to homelessness because I'd be owning a small business. I see what many of you may not, and I see many facets of it. Of course, we've worked hard with having our resource officers going out there, but there's many aspects of it. So resourcing is one aspect, and we have continued that by adding our resource officers, but we definitely do need to do more. There's going to be homeless that are truly homeless and want to get off the streets, and those are the ones that we can help. But then there's also individuals that unfortunately have other issues, and they refuse to take that help, and we need to work on the legal parameters of how we can or can do. The ideas of a navigation center that has been floated, you have to understand that because of the court rulings and the federal rulings, we cannot just ship them somewhere else. We cannot just get rid of them. We cannot enforce our camping ordinances currently. That's why you're seeing them out there, because we do not have places for them to go. Just putting them in jail is not obviously the answer, because that hasn't worked either. So definitely it's going to take a all hands on deck approach with everybody together. A navigation center is probably going to be our answer, or one of the answers.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Next, we'll hear from Charlie Halford. And the question is, are you satisfied with the current progress on how the homeless issues are being addressed? If not, what solutions do you have to offer? If so, why?
Thank you, Nick. I don't think anybody's satisfied with the homeless situation that we have, either here or in any other cities. That being said, I mean, we've made progress on it. There has been progress made, and the city's done some good things. The reality of it is, if there were easy solutions, this would have been solved a long time ago. The low-hanging fruit's been picked in regards to the homeless situation. We need to work with getting the resources to those that want to take advantage of the resources. The police department, with the 2 officers that are dedicated to the homeless, have a very good working relationship with many of the agencies and many of the homeless. Many of the homeless just don't want to take advantage of the resources. Unless and until we get some sort of a shelter, the police department is very limited in what they can do as far as addressing those that are camping out, hanging around in places that they shouldn't do. Nobody wants a shelter near them, but eventually the city is going to have a shelter. With no beds available, the police department is very limited what they can do. We can't arrest our way out of this. We've got to work cooperatively with nonprofits, faith-based groups. A navigation center in conjunction with a shelter would be great. And we need to work with the adjoining cities and counties, because we don't want to be so attractive that additional homeless come this way. On the other hand, we don't want other cities and counties bringing their homeless to us, which has occurred in the past. I think the police department has video of that occurring, and I think I'll cut myself off now.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Okay, and now we'll hear from David Martin Sr. The question is are you satisfied with the current progress on how the homeless issues are being addressed? If not, what solutions do you have to offer? If so, why?
Well, I'll first start out saying I'm with Charlie just about 99% on what he said. But first off, I want to say that we have a homeless crisis. I would like to see the city of Manteca address this issue expeditiously. Now, while I do believe there may be a time in the future for a homeless czar or a program manager, I do not believe the answer is to spend $100,000 to $200,000 on that right now. I just don't. I believe we need to partner closer with Manteca's community resource officer, Mike Kelly, and the like, and allow him to do the good job him and his team have already been doing. Let's couple our efforts and invest in Manteca's very first resource center. And the mission will be to serve people with an emphasis on education, financial literacy, mental health, community resources, empowerment, and simply providing hope to those who are in need. The Resource Center will have a broad scope of focusing on the whole person: employment readiness, career expositions, resume development, career exploration, medical care, dental care, psychological care, mental care, drug and alcohol rehabilitation care. My vision is to collaborate with local businesses in Manteca to offer these services and more by either donating their time and expertise or making these services available at minimal cost to the city of Manteca. However, businesses in Manteca will need to be sold on the idea and how it can benefit them and their businesses by having less homeless presence in and around their businesses. This will also demonstrate to the homeless that the community believes in them, which will generate positive energy throughout the city. Okay? Look, as I close, I believe, like the Bible teaches, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than this, found in Mark 12:31. And if we as a society do not embrace this scripture, nothing we do, say, or have done will last. We've got to get on this homeless issue. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, now we will go to our second question for the Manteca Council candidates. And the order we will go will be Gary Singh, Charlie Halford, David Martin Sr., and we'll wrap up with Fred Cunha. So Gary, what will you do to work toward a plan to resolve Manteca's railway traffic problems in our city?
So yes, the railroad traffic is definitely a major issue in Manteca, and unfortunately with our all of society really working together and working on we're looking at buying everything online. The rail services, they're here to stay. They're not going to go anywhere. We're going to have continuously even more trains running through our city. So we definitely need to have a plan in place. At one time we were looking at a underpass. That is still in consideration when working with our Council of Governments at the county level. There was also a plan at one time that we had thrown out to potentially look at a trench system through the city and bringing the whole rail service underground. It just comes down to financing, and it's going to take a lot of pull from so many different aspects and all the agencies from top to bottom. But for the time being, definitely I would push and continue to push for an overpass or grade crossing at 1 or 2 positions in the city. And that's how we're not going to get rid of the trains. So we're going to have to work around them. They were here before us.
Okay, thank you, Gary. And next we will go to Charlie Halford. What will you do to work toward a plan to resolve Manteca's railway traffic problems in the city?
Well, you know, the railroads, they literally run when they want to. City has no control over when they run and how they run. In fact, we build new streets across the railroads only with the railroad's permission. So like Gary, we need to investigate all the possibilities, whether it's an overpass, underpass on South Main, Center Street, Yosemite. Obviously the financial issues there are gonna be big. The trenching idea is a great idea, but we're gonna have to find a ton of money. somebody would have to start printing the money, I would suspect. It's just, that's going to be millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to do that. And we potentially, I suppose, could try and work with the railroad and at least get them to run through the center of town more at night as opposed to during the day during the peak periods. But I suspect we wouldn't be real successful in that. So working with the Council of Governments, the trip to Washington, D.C. to try and get federal money to address the problem, trying to accumulate the funds so that we can at least get a couple underpasses and or overpasses to help mitigate it, would be the most logical route we'd be able to take. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Charlie. Next, we'll hear from David Martin Sr. What will you do to work toward a plan to resolve Manteca's railway traffic problems in our city?
Well, the first thing I do is try to get a good night's rest. I tell you, I live in a pretty decent part of Manteca, but I tell you, when these trains come through, I get a little shaking in my house. So it's all, you know what, I'm actually used to it. You know, I think that I agree with what I heard earlier, that, you know, the trains were here before us. However, I do believe that we can definitely look at the underground trenching. I think, like I've heard here, it's going to be costly. But if we look at making that trenching done right as the trains enter the city and exit the city, that may be a little bit more cost effective. Don't know, but certainly be willing to look at that. I also think that if we could work with the railing system to do daytime only, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful. And we'll definitely, whatever we do on this issue, we'll definitely have to seek federal funds to address it. Having said all that, I do believe we have more pressing issues facing Manteca right now.
Okay. Thank you, David. And next we'll hear from Fred Cunha. What will you do toward a plan to resolve Manteca's railway traffic problems in our city?
There we go.
There you go.
All right, thank you. Well, one of the things that I see going on is that we are really focused in putting in a new resort hotel. We're putting in new houses. We have all this explosive growth, but there is very little effort put into the surrounding infrastructure. I think these issues that we face today could have been faced at a more manageable cost if we would have built into some of those costs into some of these developments, these businesses going in, to be able to provide for the residents of Manteca. And for me, that's something that I plan on advocating for if I'm elected to city council, is making sure that these projects include the special interests of our citizens of Manteca, to be able to make sure that we have adequate infrastructure, including the railroads. Like I said, as an emergency room nurse, I've worked in a trauma center. I've dealt with EMS coming in, and I couldn't imagine the stress that they must be under when they're trying to bring a code 3 patient into the ER or a trauma patient into the ER, and they have to navigate around a train. This is just something that's not acceptable. And I'm with David. We do have other pressing issues in the city of Manteca, but I think transportation is key to moving products, goods, and services, as well as public safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, now we're going to move on. We're going to ask the question of our Board of Supervisor candidates, and we will answer these. Robert Rickman first, and then Rhodesia Ransom will follow up. So the first question, Robert, how will you advocate for Manteca when competing with a city such as Stockton, who absorbs most of the resources related to homeless issues, homelessness, grants, mental health support, etc.?
Thank you, Nick. You know, and it's something that I've done since I became mayor. First thing that we did is to make sure we have a great relationship with Manteca and Lathrop. One of the reasons being we're stronger as a whole to combat, areas like Stockton for grants and funding. And it's funny that you mentioned funding, in that, majority of our property tax, once the state takes our property tax, we have a little bank left, and 80% of that goes to the county. and it goes to the county, and it goes right into Stockton for those services. And we don't see it back here in Manteca, Tracy, or South County. And that's something that I've talked with every mayor here in San Joaquin County, and that we all agree that a tax sharing agreement needs to change. It's the worst in the state of California. And the second is, when you're speaking of like resource and mental health and substance abuse, and those resources are in the county. And when people talk about homelessness, this is not just a housing issue. It's a substance abuse and mental health issue. And we need these resources here. Or if we're going to build programs or temporary housing and transition to housing, it has to be around those types of resources. I mean, I know Manteca, for example, is looking to do the Qualix building, and they're in planning and discussion for, and the more tax dollars that we can get from the tax sharing agreement, the more we can put into our community. So sticking together, fighting as a whole against Stockton and the county.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, now we'll hear from Rhodesia Ransom. How will you advocate for Manteca when competing with a city such as Stockton, who absorbs most of the resources related to homeless issues, homelessness, grants, mental health support, etc.?
Right, so thank you. So that's actually something that I've been doing for years in San Joaquin County, is making sure that we are actually getting resources throughout the county. They say the squeaky wheel, squeaky wheel gets the oil. It's really about collaborating and working together. I've been able to bring mental health services to South County by going to the director, Tony Barton, and having him to come and check out the shell of a facility that we have here in South County that does not provide the services, the same level of services. We really have to work with, at the Board of Supervisors, working with our state and federal legislators, because they're focused on the city of Stockton because it's the bigger county seat. It's the largest part of our population, and quite honestly, it's the largest part of the problems that happen here in this county. So there's this misperception that we don't have the same issues here, and so we really have to collaborate, and we have to be willing partners. I've been able to do that working with the county and getting them to work with us in the state to move the homeless issue forward. It's a matter of just not taking no for an answer and really working with the will of the community. And the tax sharing agreement is definitely an issue. As we saw, Manteca in their most recent agreements was able to change that tax sharing agreement. So we know that it does not always have to be that way. And it's really important for us to go collectively to the county and show them where they are not serving us well and demand our fair share. And that's what I will do as County Supervisor for District 5.
Thank you, Rhodesia. I think she can see me now. Yep, okay, perfect. Okay, now we're gonna move back to the Manteca City Council candidates, and we will answer the next question in this order: Charlie Halford, David Martin Sr., Fred Cunha, and then we'll wrap it up with Gary Singh. So next question, Charlie, what are your plans to address the downtown business area?
Well, downtown is a challenge. We need to get all of the property owners, the business owners, and the city together and come up with a common goal and to develop some common areas of agreement, which has always been difficult to do. The city over the years has invested a lot of money in downtown, and we want to make it attractive. We want to get businesses there, and we want to retain the businesses that are there that we like. There are some businesses there, I suspect, that some of the city council members would prefer not to be there. We want to attract, if we want to make downtown vibrant, we've got to attract businesses that will give customers a reason to come downtown. That may be restaurants, it may be specialty stores, it might be office professional, but we got to get the business owners and the property owners together, along with the city. We need to know that the infrastructure exists to support that, be it natural gas, electricity, water, sewer, or internet speed, so that we can be competitive in getting those businesses down there. We need to address the homeless issue, which is a core problem there, because if you have single folks coming down there and they see the homeless camp down there, they're not going to come. So we've got to make it attractive for them to come down and work with everybody to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Next, we'll hear from David Martin Sr. What are your plans to address the downtown business area?
Wow. How much time do I have?
Minute and a half.
Man, I tell you, this is a tough question for many because many aspects of what needs to happen are outside the authority of the city council to some degree. I heard that the face of downtown Manteca began to change when the opening of Walmart happened in the 70s. Within a few years, we had a few mom and pop stores that were closed as a result. Since that time, shopping has shifted from the downtown shopping centers to edges of the town, and residential districts have built around moving the customer base away from the downtown businesses. Look, so you've got homeless loitering in the Library Wilson Parks in downtown. You got lack of sufficient parking. The second floor apartment flop houses that are downtown as well. I mean, the types of businesses in a given area determine the types of customers that will frequent that business. There's no easy fixes for the downtown area, but many of the merchants feel it's totally the city's responsibility to revitalize downtown and are unwilling or unable to invest in the financial improvements. So, they'll blame the homeless and everything, but we've got so many areas to deal with downtown, and I have a lot more to say about it beyond the time that I have, but that we've got a lot of work to do downtown. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, David. Okay, Fred Cunha, what are your plans to address the downtown business area?
There we go. Thank you. So I think before we go spending any money adding some additional amenities, we need to maintain the amenities we have now. The city has spent over $1.3 million in 2011 to add amenities and upgrade Library Park. And that has totally fallen apart and is not being maintained. In addition to that, we have downtown, there's brick sidewalks that need to be repaired. There's facades of businesses that need to be repaired. There's trash that needs to be collected. There's light posts that need to be painted. There's some basic maintenance that needs to be done. So what we need to do is we need to push for staff to direct public works and the police department and code enforcement to take action downtown, to take our downtown back and make it attractive. I mean, our downtown district needs to be a place that people want to visit and patronize, a place where friends want to gather and mingle. And I just don't see that's going to happen until we make some very fundamental changes without spending a lot of money. Let's just get the people to do their jobs right now. And I think we can make a big impact on downtown. Businesses need to be rental ready. How is a business going to move in when they don't have a building that's rental ready for them to move into? We need to be able to attract businesses downtown, tax-paying businesses downtown, and that's how we're really going to improve. I have so much more to say about this as well. I love our downtown. It just needs some severe TLC to make it an attractive place. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, and now we'll hear from Gary Singh. What are your plans to address the downtown business area? Gary?
All right, so downtown's been a topic forever, it seems like, and it is a tough one, and it's going to take some tough decisions by us as electeds, city staff, business owners, and property owners. And that's the key, is that we need to get everybody on the same page or some type of page so they understand that this is not going to just be one-sided issue. The city's kind of done some of their parts by repairing our streets, redoing some of our alleyways, fixing out some of the lights. But then, of course, we need to do more. We need to hold some of our landlords accountable with the buildings that are in need of help. At the same time, we need to make sure they're getting marketed at market rate and that they are occupiable. On the business side, retail's shifting. It's not the way it used to be. We need to attract businesses that are currently viable businesses. I see downtown as more of what you see in a lot of the successful downtowns out there, as a more of a entertainment and maybe a shout out back to our historic background of Manteca district, and kind of bring an art scene in different situations that way. There's so many things to be done. But again, it will take all of us together to potentially help our downtown. But I do have faith that we can do it.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, now we will continue. We'll ask one more question of our Manteca City Council member candidates. This order will be David Martin Sr., Fred Cunha, Gary Singh, and then Charlie Halford. So David, what is your position, support or oppose, and your opinion on marijuana dispensaries and commercial cultivation within the city limits? It always seems like an easy money grab, but what do you feel could be the benefit or the drawbacks?
Well, first I want to say that at this time I do not support marijuana dispensaries in Manteca. This is a family town. I want to do everything I can to retain the values and the standards that made Manteca the family town that attracted me to it. And I'm sorry, a marijuana facility just doesn't do that for me right now. Now, I'm not a person who likes to play Monday morning quarterback and be partisan and say, well, you could have done this and you should have done that. I believe in, listening to and looking at all the factors involved in a situation before I come to a resolute on it. Now, even though at this moment I am opposed, I'm open to hearing how such a thing could benefit the city of Manteca. So, that's where I'm at right now. Thank you for the question.
All right, thank you, David. Fred Cunha, what is your position?
Yeah,
do you need me to?
Oh, go ahead. Go with the question, Nick. I'm so sorry.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, okay, so what is your position, support or oppose, and your opinion on marijuana dispensaries and commercial cultivation within the city limits? It always seems like an easy money grab, but what do you feel could be the benefits or the drawbacks?
So thank you for that question. That's a good question. A lot of people take a look at the taxes that could possibly be generated, but I think we need to take a look from a more holistic approach for the community where we can provide better jobs, livings that can be, that you can support a family. We need to be bringing manufacturing jobs into the city of Manteca, good paying jobs that people can raise their families on. Somebody working in a dispensary is a couple of people, and what's the need here? Is this a huge need in the city of Manteca for a huge marijuana dispensary or a grow operation? I personally don't use marijuana. I know that there's some medical benefits as an RN. I realize that there are some medical benefits to it. However, I think that at this time, I am opposed to having a dispensary and a large grow operation in the city of Manteca because I just don't think the need is there. I think the council and staff need to focus their efforts on real jobs that are going to bring in wages that people can raise their families on. And that's where we need to focus our effort. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, next we'll hear from Gary Singh. What is your position, support or oppose, and your opinion on marijuana dispensaries and commercial cultivation within the city limits? It always seems like an easy money grab, but what do you feel could be the benefits or the drawbacks? Gary?
Yes, so cannabis itself, we have to understand that it is legal in California. We cannot negate that fact. It's legal in California, it's legal in San Joaquin County. You can literally have a dispensary or any aspect of it be right in our backyard. Currently, if you look at it, it is in our town today. There's many people that have used it for medicinal purposes, and you can see it's being delivered. So the thing is, either we are going to be able to get on board and be part of that, where we can potentially get some tax revenue out of it, or it's going to still be here, or eventually the state will push our hands and where we have no control on how to be part of the solution and how we're going to bring it into our city. And basically we're going to be doing it the way state is asking us to do it at the same time, I understand it's not, I've done a lot of research on this and gone to many different things. Cannabis is not just a dispensary. There's so many other aspects of that business such as the testing side, the manufacturing side, or the logistical side of it. I think there's many aspects we have to understand. It is a business just as anything else. And I think there is a spot for it in Manteca.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. And next we'll hear from Charlie Halford. What is your position, support or oppose, in your opinion, on marijuana dispensaries and commercial cultivation within the city limits? It always seems like an easy money grab, but what do you feel could be the benefits or the drawbacks?
Well, I'm not a fan of marijuana dispensaries. I understand Gary's position and in some respects don't disagree with some of what he said. It is legal for both medicinal and recreational purposes in the state of California. And I share his concern that the state eventually is going to come down and say, cities, you have no choice. You're going to have to allow it. That being said, at this point in time, I'm not supportive of it. Although I do remain open, if we are getting into the position where it looks like we're going to be forced to do it, I think we need to restrict the locations where it can be placed, much like we did many years ago with adult entertainment. That it has to be a certain distance from schools, places of worship. You still have to have a place for it. I think many cities and counties that legalized it anticipating the tax revenue have found that not to be the case. Because the reality of it is they taxed it so heavily that it was cheaper and easier to go to the black market to buy the marijuana than go to the dispensary. So I think the tax revenue, I think, is a false promise. You're not going to get that much of it. That being said, we do have to deal with the results of the marijuana consumption, much like we have to deal with the results of the alcohol consumption. And we're going to deal with those problems of dispensaries if they're located in the county a half a mile outside of our city limits, because the folks going to those dispensaries would be Manteca residents. So generally, I'm not supportive. I remain open. I suppose I could be convinced, but right now I'm not.
All right, thank you, Charlie. Okay, now we're going to switch back to the Board of Supervisor candidates. And this next question will be answered first by Rhodesia and then Robert. So Rhodesia, is there a county issue that influenced you to run for the Board of Supervisors?
There's no one particular issue that influenced me to run. It is the entire totality of everything that's happened there at the county. It's important to realize that there's an intersectionality of everything that happens at the county. So when we are talking about being able to have local jobs, we are talking about dealing with the homeless issue. We're talking about education. We're talking about making sure that we have the proper infrastructure. So it's really hard to go to a place where all of our county services are housed and look at one particular issue. I think at the core of every government leader, public safety should be number one. And part of having a safe community is making sure that you have the resources for the Sheriff's Department, which has been underfunded for decades actually, and not able to fulfill a lot of the positions that are there. It's important that we are making sure that the general hospital is funded properly and able to sustain the trauma status, and making sure that we can put potentially a university here and build on the nursing profession and the medical profession, and just really making sure that we're taking a holistic view of what it takes to make a healthy county. So there's no one particular issue. My background is in public administration. I'm not only working in it, but teaching in it. And I learned a long time ago that you can't just skin a cat by looking at, one thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Rhodesia. Okay, Robert, is there a county issue that influenced you to run for the Board of Supervisors? Robert?
Thank you. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Actually, there are multiple issues, and I mentioned them earlier, and being the mayor, I've seen a lot of different things, and have some concerns with, and like a lot of the candidates do, the homeless crisis for one example, and I mentioned that earlier. You see the homeless task force that we have in the county, and homeless is just getting worse. I mean, as a matter of fact, in Stockton, it increased over 200%. Our jurisdiction has also seen an increase. And one of the problems is the housing first policy. It hasn't worked. they're ignoring the substance abuse and mental health issues on that, and that needs to be tackled. Our public safety, our sheriff's department, they have approximately 120, a little over 120 uniform, and they're down to roughly little over 60. And that becomes an officer safety issue and a public safety issue, mostly for our county residents. And our commute times and traffic congestions. We got to get traffic off the road. One of the things I fought for since I became mayor and got the consensus of the entire county is our Valley Link and 8th Train, or Valley Link, providing light rail for connection to the Bay Area, which will help alleviate approximately 25,000 cars per day. And also fighting for 120, 99, 120 Union Road interchange and the 205 to get traffic flowing again. These are some of the different things, and also the cost of living. I mean, unfortunately, you have unelected bureaucrats who pass policy and regulation that don't answer to the public, and we got to make sure that they do, and make sure we get things through.
All right, thank you, Robert. Okay, and those were the first two questions we had for the Board of Supervisors. Again, switch back to Manteca City Council candidates. The next order will be Fred Cunha, Gary Singh, Charlie Halford, and David Martin Sr. So Fred, what local governmental boards and commissions have you served on, and what local nonprofit agencies have you served on in a leadership capacity?
Okay, well, that'll be pretty easy. None, zero. This is my first attempt at doing any government type work when it comes to elected position. I've been working full-time plus, so I really don't have a lot of free time like maybe some others have. I do volunteer in my church. I serve a leadership role, a major leadership role in my church, actually a couple of different roles. That's where I spend a lot of my activities, and our church supports the community at large, regionally, nationally, and throughout the world. We're well known for our humanitarian efforts and our welfare efforts. So the work that I do in my church goes to support our local community and beyond. I'll go ahead and just leave it at that and give it back to you, Nick.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, next we'll hear from Gary Singh. What local governmental boards and commissions have you served on, and what local nonprofit agencies have you served on in a leadership capacity? Gary?
All right, so there's quite a bit of them. So currently I sit on the San Joaquin COG board, which is our Council of Governments, which handles a lot of our transportation, freeway projects throughout the whole valley, which most of our funding comes from Measure K. I serve on the flood control board, which is called SAJAFCA, which is working on with our levee systems in the valley. I also serve on the MUSD board. It's a 2-by committee between our city council and the school district. I also serve on the Manteca Lathrop 2-by committee, where we're creating our partnership between Manteca and Lathrop to make sure we are on the same page. With that, as far as the other side, I currently am also on the Hope Shelter Advisory Board. I'm on Manteca Rotary. I'm on the board for that. And then I also serve on the Community Foundation of San Joaquin in Stockton. And then various other committees over the years. It's been that we had a social media transparency committee, economic development committee. I also am currently on the downtown revitalization committee, which unfortunately we haven't had really time due to COVID this year to get revved up, but soon, hopefully I will. That's some of the boards that I currently serve on.
All right, thank you, Gary. Next, we'll hear from Charlie Halford. What local governmental boards and commissions have you served on, and what local nonprofit agencies have you served on in a leadership capacity? Charlie?
Thank you, Nick. I don't know that I've served on any governmental commissions in the last few years. I mean, when I was chief many years ago, I attended probably 15 years worth of city council meetings over the time. Have been on the board of directors for the Boys and Girls Club, served as president there. Board of directors for Manteca Rotary, served as president 3 times there. I was on the board of directors and treasurer for Give Every Child a Chance. And co-chair of the Manteca Community Thanksgiving Dinner, where we serve about 2,800 meals. I continue to volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club and donate a lot of hours there. I was board member and board chair of United Way of San Joaquin, founding board member of Manteca United Way Community Council, and I am the current member and chairman of the Manteca Lathrop French Camp Hall of Fame. And I think that about covers it.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. And David Martin Sr., what local governmental boards and commissions have you served on? And what local nonprofit agencies have you served on in a leadership capacity?
Wow. Let's see. I was the co-chair of the Bay Area Coalition for Educating People with Disabilities in the Bay Area. I've been vice president of the Community of Hope Coalition, who was an organization that worked with youth in terms of sports and things of that nature. I've been a youth basketball coach, youth football coach. I'm currently an executive board member for Dome of Hope organization. And that organization's mission is to train and educate the indigent and homeless in financial literacy, trade, develop technology, and arts. I think it's a very important aspect of anyone seeking office in any capacity to have served in their community in some regard. And I've done so many things I forget, to be honest with you. Going back many years, it's just always been something that I pride myself on doing, because I've got 5 kids, right? And I always want to be involved in the things that my kids are involved in. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, David. Okay, and the next question that I have for the Manteca Council candidates, we'll go in the order of Gary Singh, Charlie Halford, David Martin Sr., and Fred Cunha. It's a little bit of a long question, so give me a chance to get it read out. Recently, the City Council approved and added several executive positions to the city payroll, plus a reorganization plan that created new departments. Do you favor more management and administrative staff positions in the city, or more frontline workers? Can you provide examples of the changes you would like to see in city staffing over the next 4 years? And do you have a comment on the proposed city plans on creating an in-house 3-person city attorney office that will cost over $700,000 a year in salaries, benefits, including pensions? And yes, we only have a minute and a half, so do the best you can. Okay, we'll start with Gary Singh. Gary?
All right, so that's a very loaded question. So first of all, as far as our current situation, if you really look at the overall numbers of employees that we've actually added less than what was already allocated last year's budget. It does look like we're adding a bunch of people, but in reality, a lot of those positions are one's being taken down, the other one's being added. They're basically a shuffle. I think actually some of these positions that are being added, they're creating more efficiency. They'll help us be more transparent to our community in the future. So I think as far as those positions, definitely they're needed. On the other side too, I'm not all just for management positions to be added. We definitely do need workers. Not everybody can continue just managing people if there's nobody to manage on the bottom. So we do need to look at boots on the ground so we can continue to get some of our projects done instead of just waiting for somebody else to do them or consult them out. On the attorney piece, yes, the $700,000 looks astronomical, but if you really look at it today and what our attorney costs are with our current attorney and also going out, you'd be amazed to see that that's actually a saving looking at our attorney costs today.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Charlie, I'll reread the question. Recently, the City Council approved and added several executive positions to the city payroll, plus a reorganization plan that created new departments. Do you favor more management and administrative staff positions in the city or more frontline workers? Can you provide examples of the changes you would like to see in city staffing over the next 4 years? And do you have a comment on the proposed city plan on creating an in-house 3-person city attorney office that will cost over $700,000 a year in salaries, benefits, including pensions?
Well, the staffing plan, which they adopted, what was that, April? Couple days out, 2 days, they authorized those new positions 2 days after the emergency was declared for the pandemic. Personally, I think we should have waited and seen what the effect of the pandemic was going to be. That being said, I don't disagree that they needed some help in some departments, and some of what they did has created some efficiencies. But it added $1.8 million in expenses annually. I have to disagree with Gary and that it was a wash and that they've actually reduced numbers. They've not reduced numbers. They added 13 positions. Administratively, they have paused hiring and not filling authorized positions. The council has taken no action to unfund or freeze those positions. They were frozen or paused administratively by the city manager, which I'll give her credit for. They are not doing some recruitments on some of the new positions that were authorized because of the financial implications. At this point, obviously, frontline employees are more important. We need streets workers, cops, firemen, parks and rec maintenance workers in order to maintain what we already have. On the city attorney, the 700 and whatever thousand they're anticipating is going to be more than what they're currently paying. The average for the last 5 years was $575,000 in attorney's costs, including outside attorneys and what they pay the city attorney. So I think we need to take a hard look at that and try and keep those costs as low as we can. Thank you.
I have to remember to unmute myself. Okay, thank you, Charlie. Next, we'll go to David Martin Sr. Recently, the City Council approved and added several executive positions to the city payroll, plus a reorganization plan that created new departments. Do you favor more management and administrative staff positions in the city or more frontline workers? Can you provide examples of the changes you would like to see in the city staffing over the next 4 years? And do you have a comment on the proposed city plans on creating an in-house 3-person city attorney office that will cost over $700,000 a year in salaries, benefits, including pensions? David?
Well, this is a good question. It's actually on my platform. This is one of the issues on my platform, and that is fiscal accountability. With respect to Gary and the other council members, look, I get it. Everything you do is going to be looked at. It's going to be commented on. But the bottom line is this. Absolutely not do I favor the management style right now and hiring more managers. Look, we've got 12 people at City Hall making $2.5 million a year. I can't wrap my head around that with the current unemployment rate we have in Manteca, okay? And examples of how I would do some staffing and change some things around, I'd first start by recruiting locally. And I'm sorry, I don't think we need 3 city managers. I don't think every manager needs an assistant manager who makes half their salary. So, you know, I know it's easy for those who are on the outside to look at what's going on and comment on them, but at the end of the day, facts are facts. They're funny things. They can't be changed. Now, with respect to the in-house attorney, that's probably the only thing I do agree with on this question, is because I know Gary might know the numbers better than us, but I believe that we're paying more to outsource our attorneys, okay? And we only get 33% of their time. I do believe it would make more sense to have in-house attorneys where we can get 100% of their time, if that is financially fiscal. Because the numbers that I read were a little higher than what you mentioned, Charlie, in terms of what we're currently paying outsourcing attorneys. Now, if those numbers are not right, I need to know about it. But for right now, it feels like I believe the in-house attorney does appear to be a better idea. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, David. Okay, Fred. Recently, the City Council approved and added several executive positions to the city payroll, plus a reorganization plan that created new departments? Do you favor more management and administrative staff positions in city or more frontline workers? Can you provide examples of the changes you would like to see in the city staffing over the next 4 years? And do you have a comment on the proposed city plans on creating an in-house 3-person city attorney office that will cost over $700,000 a year in salaries, benefits, including pension?
Thank you for the question, Nick. And this is something that I have experience in the business world. I was a certified project manager for many years, and one of the things I would do, we dealt with outsourcing and going in and taking a look at businesses and trying to create efficiencies and take a look where the so-called fat was in the budget and cut it. And many times what we were cutting middle management because middle management wasn't required. I think what's the most important thing is we need to take a look at the deliverables that these folks are creating. What services are they providing? What are the deliverables they're giving? Who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders should be the city residents. So one of the things in project management we talk about is the triple constraint. It's called scope, schedule, and specifications. So what is the need for all these individuals in management? And do we need more so-called boots on the ground doing the actual work than the actual managers? I think that if we take a comprehensive look at the staffing plan and tie that to specific services and deliverables that are going to benefit the residents of Manteca, then I think we could come up with a good plan. I too can't wrap my head around some of the salaries that are being paid in our city at this time. As far as the attorneys go, I'm not necessarily a fan of attorneys. I think they do a lot of their own generation of work sometimes through some of the ways that they do things. But I think that perhaps having in-house attorneys full-time might be more cost-effective in the long run. I haven't seen the numbers. So thank you for the opportunity to answer this question.
Thank you, Brett. Okay, and now we'll switch over to the Board of Supervisors. We'll have Robert Rickman answer first, and then we'll have Ladija Ransom answer afterwards. So the question, what are some examples of your commitment, personal and professional, to the city of Manteca? Robert?
I'm sorry, Nick, you keep breaking up. I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi or.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What are some examples of your commitment, personal and professional, to the city of Manteca?
All right, thank you very much for the question. And you know, Tracy and Manteca have always had a great relationship. I mean, hey, we're rivalry going back, you know, to the 50s, 40s, and so in sports, and even it continues on to this day. So, you know, I love Manteca, and you know, as a peace officer, for one, I've worked in the city of Manteca, on the outskirts of the city of Manteca. You know, I patrolled 120, I patrolled in the interchanges over there at 120, 99, and 5. And I've taken care of multiple citizens from Manteca and the rural county as well as patrol. So I know Manteca very well in that extent. Also, as the past chair of the San Joaquin Council of Governments and currently sitting on the San Joaquin Council of Governments, you know, I fought for and advocated for transportation infrastructure needs for Manteca, not just regionally, but in Washington, D.C. And those include, you know, the 120-99 interchange, the 120 Union Road interchange, and also 120 itself. You know, I know there's been multiple accidents, and spoken with Caltrans, see how we can make 120 even safer. But one of the things that we have done, one thing that changed when I was mayor, is that our relationship became even closer. And it was not just Manteca, the entire South County. If we are going to have a voice in San Joaquin County and fight against entities and bigger cities like Stockton or the county itself, we have to come in with one voice and act as one. And also, one thing I mentioned it earlier, is the EMS policy that we changed, that our fire department can respond to all medical emergencies. And that just doesn't include Tracy, but Manteca, entire San Joaquin County now. In fact, the governor signed a bill late last year because of our efforts and Manteca Fire's efforts and the fire department's efforts, that it applies throughout the state of California now. So that's what I have done, and I will continue to do so and fight for South County when I become supervisor. Thank you.
You're on mute.
Okay, I thought I was the moderator, but apparently I need help. Okay, there we go. Thank you very much. Okay, Rhodesia, what are some examples of your commitment, personal and professional, to the city of Manteca?
Okay, so honestly, there's a lot to be done when you're looking at serving a community that crosses different cities. So professionally and personally, I have a little time vested working with Manteca. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a nonprofit executive director. We've worked in San Joaquin County and with local schools in Manteca, serving the mental health of young people in our community, making sure that they have access to safe places to be active when they're not in school before the pandemic. Also making sure that they have resources and activities that are gang prevention programs. I've also made it an effort to participate in things that are in Manteca and get to understand the different needs of Manteca versus Tracy, because our communities, although we're really close together, we're very different. In fact, I've been fighting with Councilmember Singh because they keep stealing our projects from Tracy. So really understanding what the needs of Manteca are. I've been involved in, when we do our One Voice trip, you know, I was assigned to, in fact, we're virtually on the One Voice trip representing everyone in DC right now. And I was assigned to help speak about the 120 interchange and make sure that I was knowledgeable about the train traffic and things that are really impactful to Manteca. So as county supervisor, I think it's more important to understand the differences between Tracy and Manteca. Also, in regards to the EMS issue, how we got that policy changed is that I went to Assembly Member Susan Eggman along with our fire chief. So we did have some community activists that went out and spoke about it, but we actually went to the Fire Chiefs Association, went to our Assembly member and had her co-author a bill to be able to change the ability for us to be able to respond to EMS issues in San Joaquin County. You'll hear Susan Eggman speak about that as well. So that has definitely helped South County as a whole. And definitely I'll be looking to learn more about how I can help Manteca as county supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhodesia. Okay, and we will switch back to Manteca City Council candidates. The order we will go this time will be Fred Cunha, Gary Singh, Charlie Halford, and David Martin Sr. Let me correct that order. It will be Charlie Halford, David Martin Sr., Fred Cunha, and then Gary Singh. Okay, Charlie, there is talk of moving the library to a leased space in the promenade by Bass Pro in their shopping center. Do you agree or disagree with this idea, and why? You're muted, Charlie?
I'm unmuted now.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard rumors to that effect, that they're looking at doing that and also buying a building downtown, the former Bucktooth billiards building, and doing something there. Without a lot more information, I'm not supportive of that at this point. I don't know why we'd want to move from a location that we own to one that we're paying an annual lease payment on. You know, it doesn't seem to me to make a lot of good sense. And creating another vacancy downtown, the rumor I've heard, and I don't know that council's had any action on this or even any information, you know, that they would convert that to some sort of a community center. But you know, we just don't know. We haven't heard or seen anything on that. Right now, without a whole lot more information, I would not be supportive of it.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Okay, next we'll hear from David Martin Sr. There is talk of moving the library to a leased space in the Promenade Bass Pro Shopping Center. Do you agree or disagree with this idea, and why? David?
Okay, I don't know about a lot of you, but some of the things that are under consideration are frustrating me. Okay, and I'm just being quite frankly, bluntly, no. Look, it sounds like a great idea. Bass Pro area looks nice, very plush area, great. But no. Why should we move one problem to cure another problem? The only reason it's been thought about it even moving it is because of the homeless issues and the unattractive nature. So what, we move it over there, and then what happens when that area has the same issues that we're currently having now? Manteca City Council needs to focus on the issues that are affecting Manteca now. Let's not move the issue to another location, another place. Let's solve it. We can clean up downtown. We can clean up that library. Let's focus on one issue at a time. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. And I do believe we can leave the library right where it's at, where it's been forever. I know if I had been born and raised here, I would never want to see that library move, okay? It's a historic location. It needs to remain there, okay? And we need to resolve the issues as to why we're trying to move it or even thinking about moving it. Thank you for that card, Chief.
Thank you, David. Okay. Fred, there's talk of moving the library to a leased space in the Promenade Bass Pro Shopping Center. Do you agree or disagree with this idea, and why?
Thank you. That's
Fred?
a good question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That's a good question, Nick. I believe that this is a regrettable decision by the council to move the library to an alternate location away from downtown, rather than actually taking the time and effort that it's going to require to maintain Library Park and the surrounding area. We need our downtown to be revitalized. We need it to be a district, a place where people are safe, where they feel safe, where they want to patronize. It's a historic building as well. The whole Library Park, right? We spent, like I said earlier, $1.3 million of hard-earned taxpayer dollars in 2011. And just moving the library downtown, or moving the downtown for that matter, because I think that's what this is a movement for. Moving the downtown to another location is not going to solve the problems that we have in the downtown district. It's not going to solve the problems we have in Library Park. We need to get down brass tacks and get the work done and fix this problem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brett. Okay, next we'll hear from Gary Singh. There is talk of moving the library to a leased space in the Promenade Bass Pro Shopping Center. Do you agree or disagree with this idea, and why? Gary?
So first of all, moving the library has not really come to the council yet. It's still in its earlier stages. So that is correct. The council has not voted anything about moving the library at this point. Originally, the question did come up. We have been talking about, as the city has grown, to look for a secondary location to better fit the needs of our community. So the opportunity did come up to have a conversation about the promenades, where we did have a location before, which was the CVB, of a location that we can potentially have a second library at. And then also work on trying to revitalize the current one that we have. I think you also have to understand that the whole aspects of libraries have changed. It's not just about books anymore. It's a technology center. It's an area where people are coming in and tapping into the internet, the jobs, and all different aspects of the old days of just thinking that it's just a place to come and read a book. It is not what I vision as a modern library. I think this is an aspect of us to, if we potentially go that route, and if the numbers make sense end of the day, I think this is a way for us to get a second library and also have a modern library, and then at the same time be able to work on our library that we currently have.
All right, thank you, Gary. Can everyone still hear me? I had to switch to my speaker on my laptop. Everybody can still hear my voice good? Okay, good. Okay, next question we have. The order will be David Martin Sr., Fred Cunha, Gary Singh, and Charlie Halford. There's been talk of a new downtown city hall and the cramped, inefficient, ineffective police station. Where do you stand on the idea of a downtown city hall, and do you favor or reject a high priority project to replace, expand, or modernize our current police facilities, and why? David?
All right. So could you repeat that first part of that question? Downtown City Hall? Isn't City Hall already? Well, okay, go ahead. Repeat the question if you don't mind. It's kind of blurry.
Okay, sure, no problem. Okay, there has been talk of a new downtown city hall and the cramped, inefficient, ineffective police station. Where do you stand on the idea of a downtown city hall, And do you favor or reject a high priority project to replace, expand, or modernize our current police facilities, and why?
Okay, so no, I don't support moving the City Hall downtown for the same reasons I oppose moving the library. We need to shift our focus where it needs to be focused on right now. And I can think of multiple areas we've already talked about that needs attention before this. However, I'm not necessarily opposed to modernizing the police station. I believe that we need to give police any and everything they need to help Manteca be better and keep us safe. And if there's anything that we can do to modernize the police station to help them save lives, deter crime, I'm for that. Thank you for the question.
All right, thank you, David. Okay, Fred, there's been talk of a new downtown city hall and the cramped, inefficient, ineffective police station. Where do you stand on the idea of a downtown city hall, and do you favor or reject a high priority project to replace, expand, or modernize our current police facilities, and why?
Thank you for that question. You know, I actually spent a lot of time in Tracy, Mayor Rickman, and I drive by the Tracy City Hall sometimes several times a day, and it's a beautiful place. I could see that's a place that the residents feel proud of. I think in the future, we should entertain that idea of creating a new city hall that is centered somehow near or around our downtown district. And I think that would add attractability. And also it would put the city council and staff in the heart of where we have some major problems right now. If they have to walk through these problems to go to work every day, I think there's going to be an effort to solve some of these problems more expeditiously. As far as expanding the police station, I think the notion of taking Qualex and turning that into a police station is ludicrous. We need to dump Qualex. Qualex is a money pit. It's going to amount to nothing but more liability for the city and for the residents of Manteca. They're talking about $9.1 million to retrofit the building, in addition to $1.1 million to acquire the building. I think they're hoping that the property values are going to go down and we get the building cheaper. But I'm opposed to utilizing the Qualex building for any of those purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, next we'll go to Gary. There's been talk of a new downtown city hall and the cramped, inefficient, ineffective police station. Where do you stand on the idea of a downtown city hall, and do you favor or reject a high priority project to replace, expand, or modernize our current police facilities, and why? Gary?
All right, so as far as City Hall, I have to say that, you know, I was part of the team where I was looking at potentially, if you look at a lot of our vibrant downtowns in other cities, City Hall is in downtown. Yes, I would love to have the City Hall in downtown and try to do a multi-story building that would bring all of our departments into one building so it's more efficient. But at the same time, I know the environment that we're living in today, and that if it's not physically even feasible. So yes, I agree that we do need to do something like this, but I'm not saying we need to do it today. You also have to remember there's multiple funds that we're working with within the city and that are all allocated to different things. So we can do more than one thing at a time. So what we're doing with City Hall, if we are thinking about that, is we're planning for the future as the city continues to grow. And I really believe that in the future, when we can do it, it can be a catalyst for part of our downtown revitalization, bringing in demand into our downtown with our employees that would also venture out to all of the businesses in downtown. As far as the police station, right now, yes, that is an issue. They are busting at the seams. We need to expand our police station. Currently, at this point, I think we can work with the campus that we are in and working at how to expand that area and maybe the parking and the areas across the street from the current City Hall. That's where we stand today. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And then we'll hear from Charlie Halford. There's been talk of a new downtown city hall and the cramped, inefficient, ineffective police station. Where do you stand on the idea of a downtown city hall, and do you favor or reject a high priority project to replace, expand, or modernize our current police facilities, and why? Charlie?
Well, I'm not a fan of the downtown city hall. I think it's going to be one, a very costly endeavor to do, and two, you already have the parking and the traffic situation down there, and bringing even more of it down is not going to be helpful. That being said, it would be helpful for the downtown business if it was there, but right now I don't think it's feasible. The police department, which obviously is near and dear to my heart, and I'm pretty familiar with it, they're working out of 5 different buildings, which is 3 more than they started with in 1976 when I started there. It's not real secure, even though there's gates around it and fences around it. You know, I think within 6 months of the time we put the fence up, somebody drove through it and then tried to drive out through it. I think the police department is a higher priority than City Hall. There's a couple possibilities, more than a couple possibilities, I'm sure. One is you build a brand new and off-site someplace, you know, whether it's at Qualex, you know, you just demolish what's there and start all over again. Gary has floated the idea of the homeless navigation center and the PD kind of occupying the same space. That's a possibility. I mean, you'd have to see how that worked out and what that looked like. You could build a new multi-story building where the parking lot is there now and create parking across the street and see how that worked. There's a couple possibilities. Right now, they need more space, and as they add more officers, they're going to need even more. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. Okay, we're going to move back over to our Board of Supervisor candidates. Rhodesia Ransom, you'll answer first, and then Robert Rickman will answer second. So Rhodesia, the question, there is more than one city in your district. Since neither of you live in the city of Manteca, how can we be assured Manteca will get equal and fair representation? Rhodesia?
That is a fair question. It is a question that I have been asked by citizens and residents of Manteca. It's a question I've been asked by leadership of Manteca. And I think the proof is already in the pudding. My job in everything that I do is all about representing the people that I'm charged with representing. I have heard from Mantecans that they don't think it's fair that they have 2 different districts, and I've been asked if I would support them becoming one district with Lathrop, and if that is the will of Manteca, then I would absolutely support that. I think it's important to meet with the residents of Manteca. As I mentioned earlier, there are different issues in Manteca than in Tracy, and it's important that you not feel that Tracy is drowning out Manteca, you know, focusing on just Tracy. And so I think it takes a concerted effort. It takes collaboration. Much of everything that I've been able to get done has been about collaborating. And I also know that we and the South County, we need to be one strong voice in order to get the things that we need done from the Board of Supervisors. I would look forward to working with Supervisor Patty in his area of the district to merge what the needs are for a total Manteca and make sure that we are representing the entire needs of the Manteca and not bringing whatever Tracy's solutions are to Manteca, because I think that's really important when you look at even the homeless issue in our county. What's right for Stockton, what's right for Tracy may not be right for Manteca, and being mindful of that and making sure that we are moving towards solutions that have the consequences that we're looking for is going to require that I actively listen to the people and the leadership of Manteca and make sure that their voice is represented. And I would bring you along in that journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhodesia. Robert, there is more than one city in your district. Since neither of you live in the city of Manteca, how can we be assured Manteca will get an equal and fair representation? Robert?
Thank you, Nick, for that question. And that's a great question. And what I would say is look at my record and look what I've done. And like I've said before, when I became mayor, I reached out to Manteca and, you know, the former mayor and both the current mayor and the current board. And we've had mayor meetings, we had council meetings in which some of us came together to see what we can, different aspects that we can share, common problems that we can push forward. One of them being the homeless issue. You know, the homeless issue is not unique to one of our city. It encompasses all, and you know, homeless folks are coming from each city. And like I said before, it's not just a housing crisis, but it's a substance abuse and mental health issue. Transportation issue. When I was chair of COG, I fought hard for Manteca, the 12099. I fought for ACE, the 120 Union Road interchange, and the infrastructure in and around Manteca. And because it's South County, and like what I said before, South County, we have to come together as a whole to have a voice to combat, you know, entities like Stockton and the county itself. The cost of living, you know, and we talk about public safety. When you talk about public safety, and many people probably don't know, but usually at night, for entire South County, you have usually one sheriff deputy patrolling out there. And a lot of times the backup is, you know, the state police agencies. And that needs to change. It doesn't just affect Tracy, it affects us all. And also our economy, getting people back to work, opening up our small businesses. You know, our small businesses, our families are struggling because their businesses are still closed. County supervisor, we need to start opening up these businesses, and we can do that safely while protecting our vulnerable population. So a lot of these things, of, you know, as county supervisor, I will push for the entire South County. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, we'll switch back to the Manteca Council candidates for their last question, and then we'll go back to our Board of Supervisors for their last questions, and we'll get to the closing. So the order for the final question for the Manteca candidates will be Fred Cunha, Gary Singh, Charlie Halford, and David Martin Sr. So Fred, your last question. What is your position on the proposed Measure Z, raising the city sales tax by 1% to 9.25%, which would make Manteca have the highest sales tax of any city in San Joaquin County, and why? Fred?
Thank you. That's a wonderful question. I appreciate that. Generally speaking, I don't support any new taxes. I think we're paying too much in the way of taxes in Manteca and the state of California. We need to look at where the current tax revenue being generated today is going. We need to take a look at ways to manage our pocketbook better. Imposing an additional sales tax during the COVID-19 crisis is going to further impact our struggling businesses in the city. And also it may drive the purchases outside of our city to surrounding cities. Like I said, I oppose the 1 cent sales tax. They're talking about $12 million a year is going to be generated, perhaps a little bit more. I've heard different numbers. And it's basically a blank check. There's for the council to use their discretion on how to spend this money. There are some provisions that say a certain amount and the general fund needs to be used for public service, but there is no accountability to the council of where this money is going to be used for, what this money will be used for. I think if we are going to propose a new tax to the citizens of Manteca, we need to do our job and plan for a specific use of those funds, whether it be to improve Airport Boulevard, whether it be to put in a new city hall, improve on the police department. We need to tell the citizens of Manteca that are voting, the voters, exactly what they're voting for. So as it's written today, I oppose Measure Z. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, next we'll go to Gary. What is your position on the proposed Measure Z, raising the city sales tax by 1% to 9.25%, which would make Manteca have the highest sales tax of any city in San Joaquin County, and why? Gary?
All right, so let me get this out first. You know, as a small business owner and realizing the times that we are in, I agree that this may not be the best time to, you know, bring a tax measure to the people and our businesses. So in that aspect, that's done. But let's look at also now, you know, we talked about the $12 million and the needs of the city. There is, you know, if it was what we've left in, we've done right now is left it in the people's hand. If they would like things done and changed in Manteca, I definitely feel that we need to look at our budgets and figure out where we can cut. But then if we did have the 12 million, I do see that potentially being used for our public safety. And even if it's not allocated, you have to look that 60 to 70% of our current budget is allocated towards public safety. So 60 to 70% of that tax measure would go to public safety. I also feel there's a major need in streets and also for our children and for recreational programs. I think there's many needs, but again, it's up to the people and they can decide, but I do understand that this may not be the best timing.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, and we will go to Charlie. What is your position on the proposed Measure Z, raising the city sales tax by 1% to 9.25%, which would make Manteca have the highest sales tax of any city in San Joaquin County, and why? Charlie?
Well, I'm not supportive of the sales tax measure. I think the timing is wrong. Now is not the time to add another 1 cent to the sales tax when everybody is, or a lot of people are struggling. I don't think they've justified the need. The need may be there, but it's not been articulated, at least not out to the public and certainly not to me in the public forum. What is actually on the ballot is very vague in how it would be spent. It covers everything. Be it crime prevention, emergency response, pothole repair. If you look at the actual measure, it can be spent on anything. There's no sunset clause on it, so it goes on forever. And so I just can't support it. And I don't think Gary ever told us whether he was for it or against it. And that he talked about the timing wasn't good, but I don't think he actually told us whether he's for it or against it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Okay, now we'll go to David Martin Sr. What is your position on the proposed Measure Z, raising the city sales tax by 1% to 9.25%, which would make Manteca have the highest sales tax of any city in San Joaquin County, and why? David?
Read my lips. No new taxes. I don't like them. Look, Mantecans got to ask ourselves one simple question. Have we done a good job managing the money we already have? I'm not casting any aspersions on anyone currently holding office, but seriously, if I ever considered a tax, it would be a special tax for the good of the city, one that could be managed and it could only be used specifically for that which it was on the ballot for. General taxes like this, you can do whatever you want. I mean, the new council's gonna come in potentially, right? So what if their ideas are different? I mean, look, we paid a former police chief 9 months and then released her. What is that salary, 9 months? Look, I don't have all the answers, and I'm definitely not trying to pretend that I know everything there is to know about what's going on at City Hall. But one thing is for sure, we need more fiscal accountability, and we need it today. No on this measure.
All right. Thank you, David. Okay, now we're going to go back to our Board of Supervisor candidates for their final question. Robert Rickman will answer first, and then we'll have Rhodesia Ransom follow up. So Robert, if elected, what do you believe would be your greatest responsibility to the county citizens? Robert?
All right, thank you, Nick. You know, being a representative of the people and not forgetting who you work for. And I think that's the biggest issue. I know a lot of people get into office and they forget who got them in there. And that's something you always have to have in mind. And also do what you say you were going to do. One thing I'm proud of in my 6 years on city council and 4 years as mayor, I have always kept my promises. When I tell you I'm going to do something, I do it. I'm a person that can shake your hand, give you my word, and that's what I'm going to get done. And if you look at my record in public safety, and you know, when I first ran for council, you know, we had a gang problem, and it's something I was going to tackle, and I did. Amenities, same thing. We built a bunch of ball fields, and it's important to obtain and keep the public's trust. And you do that by keeping your word and keep your promises. Like what I'm talking to you about today on some of the different issues, the public safety, the homeless crisis, the reduce of the commute and traffic congestion, and reduce of the cost of living. It's something that is personal, not just to me, but to this entire residents of South County and the county itself. I've knocked on probably thousands of doors in Manteca over the last probably tens of thousands last year. And one thing I like to do is get up close and personal with people, not so much with COVID-19 nowadays, but to hear their answers. And when I look somebody in the eye and I tell them, hey, I'm going to go out and work for you, I do it. And like I said before, I have my opening statement. I promise the residents of Manteca, South County, a choice, not an echo. So thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, Rhodesia, your last question. If elected, what do you believe would be your greatest responsibility to the county's citizens? Rhodesia?
Yes, thank you. I take the job of governance very seriously, and I think the greatest responsibility would be, regardless of where my personal thoughts may take me or what my personal experiences may be, is to look out in the best interest of our citizens and make the decisions that will actually protect their health, wealth, and prosperity for this community. People are looking to government to make sure that we are actually not only keeping them safe, but giving them an ability to feed their families, and you know, whether it's to be entrepreneurs or to just have jobs that will take care of their families. And so regardless of where I stand personally, you will find that I am also one for making sure that I keep my promises, and also being willing to understand that what my initial assumptions may have been, or what my initial or personal thoughts may be, my mind can be changed if people bring me evidence or facts, or maybe it's not going to impact my life in the same way that it will impact the community's life. So always maintain the position of servant leader representing the community, not, you know, politician who's going in to make a decision based on the fact that I have a position that the citizens have elected me to. I think that people are tired of divisive government, and they want to see that, especially in this pandemic, they have learned, we've all learned, that it's really not about whether you're Republican or Democrat. It's about what you're going to do to protect the health, wealth, and prosperity of the community with the decisions that you make. And so the number one job is to be trustworthy and make the decisions based on what is best for moving the community forward and being able to actually deliver on what is needed to help build a sustainable and community that will be able to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhodesia. Okay, so that actually concludes our questions for all the candidates. Thank you all very much. This was definitely different doing it by Zoom. Hopefully everybody that's in attendance heard what they wanted to hear from the candidate that they wanted to hear it from. And they got just a good round knowledge of the candidates that are running for both Manteca City Council and San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors, District 5. So we're going to go ahead and begin with our closing statements. And I know, Rhodesia, that you just finished up your last questions, but we're going to start with our County Board of Supervisors with your closing statements. So Rhodesia, if you are ready, if you want to go ahead and give us your closing statement, and then we'll move forward to Robert Rickman. Rhodesia?
Okay, well, sure. Thank you very much. So first, I want to thank everyone for actually showing up. I think that it speaks volumes when you have this many people in the community who care enough to show up and find out who wants to represent them and what they will bring to the table. I also just want to thank this community for the awesome opportunity that I've had in nearly the 2 decades that I have been in service to this community, serving in positions such as on the Tracy Planning Commission. I served 2 terms on the Civil Grand Jury, where I really got interested in the Board of Supervisors and learned that there was a lot more that we can do to make our cities within these counties more productive and more efficient to serve everyone. I feel like the council candidates have the best questions, and so I'm going to speak on some of those issues as part of my closing statement and just say, when you look at my record of leadership, it's really about working with the people and getting things done. I was very disappointed in the initial homelessness response, not only from the county, but from my own city. And as a result, needed to work and with the community to actually be able to move things forward. And we're finally starting to see movement with the voting on a temporary shelter that will actually have the access to the navigation center to connect residents with our homeless people with substance use and mental health. And that's something that I've been really pushing for because our community deserves our parks back. And it's just really something that has to do with keeping our community safe. I serve on the Tracy Police Activity League because I have definitely been committed to making sure that young people are connected to mentoring and mental health and all of those things that will keep them, from being caught up in things that actually happen in our community. In regards to housing and homelessness, if you check the record, you will see that I recently proposed in our transit-oriented development that we put 10% inclusionary zone in there for building, because it is important that if we are really looking to keep our educated students here. I have 3 kids in college that my husband and I have been fortunate enough to raise in Central Valley in San Joaquin County. When they graduate, which one's graduating in December, they're not going to be able to live here, which means that we're losing a valuable opportunity to be able to attract businesses because we know they are looking for an educated workforce. I support the Valley Link, as I hope everyone does, because we absolutely need to cut down on the traffic going to the Bay Area. But keep in mind, we cannot just solve the traffic problem with only the train. We have to continue to build jobs because houses are being built faster than we can build any train in this community. So we need to really focus on building local jobs. I've been part of different roundtables and solutions on that. And as your county supervisor, I'll be pushing to continue to do things like that so that we can make sure that we are not just doing one thing at a time. You have to be able to focus on the entire problem holistically, not just looking at one symptom of the issue. I definitely believe in transparent government. You'll see that a lot of the things that I've participated in, it's really about making sure that even if the community doesn't like my decision, they deserve to know how I got to those decisions in order to be able to help those communities. So help the community. So at the end of the day, it's really about, this is a position about heart and experience and passion. And this is, for me, being on the County Board of Supervisors, it's not just a position. Yes, it is a full-time job, but it is really definitely touching on a lot of the things that touch people's lives. And these are things that I'm passionate about. To me, it's a dream job, very much related to a lot of the things that I've already done in the community. And I would be proud and honored to serve as your county supervisor, and I will remain accessible and accountable to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rhodesia. Oh, a great closing. Okay, Robert. Oh, you're still muted, still muted.
All right.
There we go, perfect. All right, Robert, there you go.
To the Manteca Chamber of Commerce for the invitation, to Nick for you here today, and Joanne, and all the viewers who turned in. So thanks to everyone very much. My goal as the next San Joaquin County Supervisor is to make our county a safer and more desirable place to live, work, and raise our families. I am more optimistic about the future of San Joaquin County than I've ever been before. We must have a long-term vision and continue to look in the future or keep our blinders on and stay stuck in the past. However, there are problems that need to be addressed, and these problems need to be addressed immediately. Our public safety. The first priority of government is to keep our citizens safe. For over 20 years, I have worked and currently work as a state police sergeant, and I've worked in every city here in San Joaquin County. I've devoted my entire life practically to public safety. We talk about public safety, and we have to address the homelessness. This is a humanitarian emergency here in California, and the cost of living, mental health, public health and safety, and substance abuse crisis. We have to work with our law enforcement leaders, elected officials, and residents to make sure we reform horrible release laws like Prop 47 and AB 109. And we have to make sure our San Joaquin County Sheriff's Department has the deputies to keep our community safe. Currently, like I said before, the staffing levels of our deputies patrolling our rural neighborhoods and roadways aren't even close to being full. In fact, they're about half. And this is an officer safety and a community safety issue. We need to get more police on the streets. The homeless crisis. And I have been consistently the only candidate who has stated that this is not just a housing issue. This is a substance abuse and mental health issue, and we have to deal with that if we're going to fix this crisis. We need to solve the underlying problem if we are going to fix it. As a state police sergeant, I'm on the front lines. I see this every single day, and I have experience dealing with that issue. And I've worked with the San Joaquin County supervisors, especially with our supervisor, Tom Padu, who has a great plan to address some of these issues. Reduce our traffic, our commute times and traffic congestions. Now we need to expand our freeway and infrastructure, use the Port of Stockton to ship cargo instead of having them hauled on our freeway, expand the San Joaquin County Metropolitan Airport to a national hub and increase cargo flights, expand services and routes by ACE train, and continue to pursue, like I have been for the last several years, Valley Link, the commuter rail. You know, I sit on the Council of Government, like I said before, and I've been the chairperson and fought and advocated for the 2X5 expansion, the 12099 interchange to 120 Union. And that still needs to be pushed forward, and continue to fight for Valley Link, expand ACE, and expand public transit opportunities. And also, our cost of living continue to increase. We need to rein in unelected bureaucrats who pass policy and regulation that don't answer to the public. We need to reform outdated laws like the California Environmental Quality Act, or like CEQA, that add thousands of dollars to our rents and mortgages. And we also need to review and rein in LAFCO so we can get these projects done faster. I have experience where it counts right here in San Joaquin County. I'm proud of my record, but I'm not done yet. I don't seek the position of supervisor to do small things. I seek the position of supervisor to finish a job. So we are at a pivotal point. On March 3rd, you will determine what type of city, county your kids and grandkids will inherit. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Robert. Great closing as well. So, okay, thank you to our two candidates from the Board of Supervisors. Okay, next we're going to hear our closing statements from our Manteca City Council candidates. Our order will be Charlie Halford, Gary Singh, David Martin Sr., and Fred Cunha. So I'll turn it over to Charlie for your closing. Charlie?
Thank you, Nick. Thank the chamber and all the candidates for participating, and everybody that's taken time out of their day to tune into this. I'd like to think I'm uniquely qualified to be on the council. Between my 32 plus years of service to the city at the police department, my 20 plus years at the Boys and Girls Club as either a volunteer or as full-time paid staff, and my involvement in the community through all the various nonprofits I've been involved with. I think I bring a lot to the table. I have the time to be fully engaged and involved with both the community and the council. I think with me is what you see is what you get. I'm not going to blow a lot of smoke. I'm going to tell you what I think, and I'm going to tell you what I think I can do and try and get that accomplished through the city. I've spent my life here, and I've dedicated my life to serving the community and the city of Manteca. I will always do what I think is best for the community, not for special interest and not for special groups, but what's best for everybody in Manteca. That being said, you can't make everybody happy all the time. It's just, you can't do it. I'll give Gary credit. Sometimes, you know, you got to make a decision and some people don't like it. And you have to move forward. I believe in transparency and accountability. Believe wholeheartedly in fiscal accountability and fiscal restraint. We can only spend what we have. And as much as we'd like to do some things, we have to operate like we operate our families and start putting money away and saving for the future, and then do projects as you can afford them. You know, or you finance them, and you make the payments on them. That being said, I look forward to being able to serve you as a city councilman. I hope that I've earned your vote on November 3rd, And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for your closing. Okay, next we'll go to Gary Singh. Gary?
Thank you again. Thank you, Nick, for hosting. Thank you, the chamber, and thank you all of the individuals out there that took some time during their long lunch here and listen to all of us talk. So, you know, I've been very thankful to all of our residents and community. I've served the city of Manteca for the last 4 years. COVID-19 this year brought many challenges that, you know, we have never expected. We've been responsive and worked together as the community to overcome those obstacles, such as providing a business grant, helping getting PPE out there, creating a social media platform for our businesses to advertise, thinking outside of the box to work with some of the businesses to safely open. Also working with the county to, you know, continuously push them to help our businesses actually open up sooner. And overall, you know, educating everyone on the proper safety protocols that we needed to follow this year. And there's going to be decisions that definitely, you know, like Charlie said, that now everybody's going to be happy with, but we have to move forward. That's why we get elected, to make those tough decisions. Currently, as looking at, you know, kind of moving forward now, looking at our $48 million budget, general budget that we have, you know, 44% of it comes from property taxes, only 34% from sales tax. I would like to continue using the next 4 years to push for commercial and industrial development in our city. We cannot just be dependent on residential growth. One project that I would like to highlight is on Airport West, which would be the Pacific Logistics Center. That potentially will bring in 3,400 jobs to Manteca, instead of building 700 homes in that same location. I also would like to get the truck route completed as traffic continues to grow in the city of Manteca. I have faith we can revitalize our downtown, and we'll do by serving on the downtown committee. As we know, you know, our budgets may be constrained. We need to be fiscally responsible and also look to work with our county supervisors, as they have mentioned, to bring more equitable property tax sharing agreements so that more of Manteca's money can be utilized in Manteca. And we don't necessarily need to increase taxes. We can bring those funding sources in other ways, just like that property tax sharing agreement. Showing regional leadership. I think I've done that well. I've served on council of governments. I've continued pushing with other members from the other cities for efforts in getting 99-120 improved for the safety of our citizens. As you know, that has been called the Death Mile. The project is actually funded and will start construction late 2021. I also serve on the Regional Flood Control Agency, which shows progress on our levees, and residents in South Manteca will not get to flood insurance. And also, we will protect our critical infrastructure. I've been your voice, created partnerships, increased Manteca's influence regionally. I'm thankful for the endorsement of our local police and fire, as we are much stronger together. It has been an honor to serve, and would love to continue working together with Manteca for an exciting, bright future. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, now we'll hear from David Martin Sr. David?
Thank you for the honor to speak at this event. Great job, Nick and Joanne. Thank all the my candidates as well. I want people to know I'm running for City Council to be the voice of all the common goals that we, the people of Manteca, all have in common together as the family we truly are. Now that sounds cliche, but it's just as a matter of fact. That's the reason I'm running. Okay, and if I'm elected, I promise to focus on 4 core issues. One being public safety, and it's a different spin because it's not the usual. So my public safety platform will be focused on advocating for a JPC, a junior police and community organization that's for all the youth in our town. It's modeled after a program created by Chief Dave Bricker called the Manteca Police Chiefs Foundation, in which Chief Nick ran very well That's how I met Chief Nick, is at that event they had, and it's a 2-week program, and it's great. But I think our kids need something like this year round. I mean, we have JROTC in our classrooms, but I got to tell you, our kids don't come in contact with military as often as they should, but they see a police car every single day. Okay, and what the Junior Police and Community Corps program will be is that it will have our youth engaging police early and often. I'm proud to say my kid, even he knows some of the police by name. He even has a letter of recommendation from one of the police for college, and I think that's great. So I want to advocate that. I think we need more code enforcement officers to deal with speeding in neighborhoods. We need to have monitored devices, racket bumps, things like that in the neighborhood to help, create more safety for our kids, and maybe increase some safety lanes for cyclists. And maybe form some effective neighborhood watch communities to deal with thefts and vandalism. These are real issues that we can handle right now. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but a lot of the issues that are on the table right now, but I think that's important. The other issue is COVID-19. I think we need a very specific way to address COVID-19 in our schools so our kids and our teachers can be safe. That's important. Homelessness, I spoke at length about how we can deal with homelessness in terms of having a homeless resource center with the collaboration of faith-based organizations, nonprofits, and our businesses in Manteca. And fiscal accountability, talked about that. If anybody has any questions about how I feel fiscally, please let me know, because I think I said enough about that. I won't go any further with my time on that. I'm also an advocate for term limits. I think we have to be in an area where we can get new, fresh faces. And it doesn't matter whether they're older people or younger people, but we need to have term limits so that we can get new voices to deal with the issues we have. So in closing, I want to say, it's time for Americans to rise above the partisan politics and divisive rhetoric that pits us against each other. I know we have more in common than we don't. So we don't need to be popular. We just need to be true to ourselves and the values and our standards. We need bold and principled leadership for Manteca, and I plan to bring it. And the last thing I want to say, and I know Chief's got his card up, I challenge each of you to take my pledge. It's #Pledge for Humanity Manteca. I challenge you, Charlie, Fred, Gary, Rhodesia, Robert, every candidate and every person on this call. I challenge you to take that pledge and do something good for a veteran, a police officer, firefighter, first responder, a parent, anybody. Take them to lunch, do anything. It ain't about my campaign. It's just about spreading something good for the people in this community. So I challenge you all to take that pledge. Thank you for this time.
All right, thank you, David. And last, we'll finish up with Fred Cunha. Fred. You're still muted. There we go. Perfect.
There we go. All right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to the community, to the chamber. Thank you, Nick, for your work in organizing this, and thank all the candidates for coming out so we have an opportunity to share our ideas with the community. I think an informed voter is a better voter, and that's very important that everybody actually gets out and votes this November. As a registered nurse, my current career, I am in folks' homes every single day. Many of them don't know, most of them, in fact, all of them don't know that I'm running for office because I'm in other communities as well as Manteca. And I hear what their problems are that they're facing during these times. I see the problems that they're facing at these times. I spent a lot of time in the emergency rooms in the local trauma center in this area here. I know from firsthand experience the problems that we face in our community, and when it comes to homelessness. Homelessness is a big problem that affects many areas. I think we all agree on that. And the way that we're going to deal with it is by dealing with the drug problem, with the mental health issues. In the ER and even in home health, we have to turn people away at times, or not really turn them away, but when we discharge them and get them off of service, there's no follow-up services for things like mental health and for the alcohol and drug addiction. So homelessness is a public safety issue. The number one reason I am running for city council is for public safety. I came home one day after seeing all the things that were going on across our nation, and I thought to myself, what can I do to make a difference? I am going to run for city council because I will make sure that my vote counts and votes for the counts for the people of Manteca. I will never vote to defund the police. I will never, ever vote to defund the police. We need to make sure they're fully funded. Without law enforcement, there is no law and order. We need to ensure that they have all the resources they need, the training that they need to be able to do their jobs. Our city is being judged by our downtown district. Our downtown district is unfortunately less than desirable. I would challenge anybody here that's listening to my voice right now. Would you feel safe taking your young children downtown, especially at night? Or even during the day, would you take them to the library park? And I'm sure the answer to that is probably no. And there's a lot that needs to be done there. As far as COVID-19, we need to get back to work. We need to get back to opening our businesses. I'm also a public health nurse, and I understand something about epidemiology and the constraints that we have now. We should not have a one-size-fits-all approach. No new taxes. I really appreciate the time to be able to talk to everybody and to hear all the other views that are out there. Everybody, please go and vote. Vote this November. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, so that wraps up our candidate forum. First, I'd like to thank all the candidates for showing up and being patient as we got through it all. I know we went a little bit over, but hopefully I didn't take up too much of your afternoon. But again, just like to thank everybody that was in attendance and everyone that made it possible. In these trying times, it's a little different. This is not what we normally do, but I did see a couple chat comments that people actually appreciated the Zoom meeting so that we actually were able to get it done. Remember, for those attendees, the candidate links to their website. So if you have further questions for them, we'll get them somewhere up on the chamber website. It's not an endorsement. It's just a way for you to contact the candidates. And also a link to the recording from the event today will be on the website shortly. So with that, I'd like to say thank you to everybody. Have a great afternoon. Stay safe, stay apart, wear a mask if you're in close contact. So other than that, everybody have a great afternoon. And again, on behalf of Manteca Chamber of Commerce, we would like to say thank you and have a great day. We'll see you all later.
Thank you.
Thank you.